Well, thank you for coming. This is a great turnout, and before we start, I'd like to thank, two people in particular. I'd like to thank Jules, who signed you in tonight over there, for organising tonight. And also to Liv, who put a lot of the content together, all the slides and a lot of the back office work before she went to Mauritius. So we don't feel too sorry for her. So, thank you, Liv. Thank you. So I've been told I've got to thank a lot of our sponsors as well, but I'll start off first with obviously Natilik. I mean, thank you guys, to Al and the team for hosting us in this great venue. But no, fantastic. I know you've supported the community for a number of events now, and it doesn't go unnoticed, because without this type of sort of voluntary help, these things wouldn't happen, right? So thank you for that. And obviously, if anybody wants a soundbite today, we've got our channel media associate here, Doug Woodburn. You'll know him by reputation over the years, but Doug's here. I'm sure you'll be looking for a soundbite off people. So please approach Doug as the night goes on. How many Morettis are you into, Doug? 7, right? Okay. Soundbites will be good. And then obviously all our other sponsors on there. So we've got, as you can see on the board, we've got some long-term partnerships, and as I say, I think, speaking to Yvonne earlier, I think we're 4 years in now with the channel community, which is fantastic, and obviously that started, from what I understand, I think the first meeting was in a pub in London somewhere, and I think Fran was there, that I've been told, and Dan was there as well. So normally in a pub, I hope you don't. But no, 4 years on, and a lot of volunteering hours have gone into, obviously led by Yvonne first, but also by the wider committee now. About a year ago to the day, we set up and moved into become a sort of a charity, a CIC, and what that meant was all the emails weren't being channeled through her or Yvonne, and having to do all the processes. We won't talk about it. But we've set, there's a committee set up now of probably about sort of a dozen people on that committee that spread the load and do things like hosting the events and the back office support as well. So the idea of that is, now we realise it's become something which people can really feel are in a trusted environment. It's a networking space where everybody from every single part of their experience in the channel, they might be new in the channel, the technology channel, because I didn't know what the channel was before I came into the channel, but in the technology channel, and what it becomes is, it becomes a real interesting place, and I'll go on to my next slide because Liv will tell me off. But the whole idea of this premise, and I won't go through all this, but the idea is the channel community was very much set up, as you can see here, to create a community of sort of like-minded people where we can come together, we can share our experiences and motivate one another to go on and do bigger and better things. And I'm looking around this room at a few people who have gone on that journey, and the channel community have definitely, from what they've said, have played its little part to support that environment. So I think that's really fantastic. And this slide hasn't changed in 4 years, which is testament to obviously the vision that was set out by Yvonne in the first place. I'm not going to award you any more compliments tonight, by the way. But in essence, it's split up into the 3 red areas. You've got the community, the network, so that's you guys. That's everybody in this room today and the other events that we host. We've got the channel buddies, so they're mentors. So in here, can I have a show of hands of who's a channel buddy? Yeah, so we've got a few more coming up now. Yeah, we've got. So the channel buddy setup is people who obviously volunteer a lot of their time to help people find their direction and find that confidence in themselves generally, just to be a sounding board. So mentoring in its true sense, it's not a coaching exercise, it is a mentoring piece. So if you need some coaching, again, Yvonne's the person you need to be speaking to. And then the most important part of this is the mentees. So these are the people who team up with a channel buddy who they feel is aligned to their values, their experiences and what they want to get out of it. So I think this is really important. Is what we're trying to do is grow the mentees more and more. So your help in this room. If you want to become a mentee after tonight, obviously reach out to one of the buddies. Another show of hand, buddies, please. Higher. Thank you, yeah. So please reach out to one of the buddies and have a conversation and open dialogue. And if they're not the right buddy for you, they'll point you in the right direction of who the right person should be. So yeah, that hopefully gives you some idea. And thank you for those who know this slide already over the 4 years and bearing with me on that one. But I think this is really important, and this is what we're about. So without further ado, I think we've got you ladies in order, haven't we, here? So apart from me on the end, I get that. That's helping me to listen. So I'm not leash, by the way, so that you can tell. So obviously here we've got tonight, you know, and I think Elisha and I know each other already, but Bharti and Kim, you know, we haven't met before until we've engaged over the last few weeks on a few calls and things. So as I've found out more about these ladies is, I mean, the mixture of experience we've got tonight to share with you guys is so valuable, and I'm really inspired after listening to some of their stories. And again, as host tonight, hopefully we'll touch on some of their stories. But I'll give you a little bit of a background, but I will have to read this out off my phone, by the way, because I want to make sure I get it right for the ladies. But if we start with Kim on the end, obviously Kim's CMO here at Natilik, so part of the team that helps us host tonight. So yeah, and I think as I've got here, so as a chartered marketer, you know, which is I know how hard that is to get a chartered marketer. I think there's only 800 in the UK, so I know the work that goes into that. But in addition to that, she's also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. So what she doesn't know about marketing, well, anyone's business, right? But I think what's important here with Kim is, I think Kim's been about 7 years at Natilik, 6-7 years now. So, but also she does a lot of mentoring sort of within Natilik, but previous to that she's done a lot of mentoring with like Cambridge University and various other organisations with the different verticals she's worked in. So yeah, I think we've got fantastic experience. I've got some good questions for you, Kim, as we go on.
Thank you. I'll blush if you keep going.
You might not say that. And then obviously we've got Bharti Lim. So Bharti Lim I've got as the Group Security Strategy Manager at Computacentre. So welcome, Bharti, and thanks for joining us. Because I know you do a lot of these things, as we said before. So thank you. So with Bharti, obviously, what Bharti's sort of shared with me is she's got about 18 years experience in the technology channel, doing various different roles, and I think the past 7 years similar to Kim at Computacentre in particular. So obviously a lot of experience, but also a big passion I think of Bharti's is very much because she's involved with the cyber security side of things and the strategic vision of Computacentre at a group level. She's got a big passion about encouraging more ladies into those technical roles, which I think is really important. So yeah, I think tonight she'll have a different perspective maybe on various things, but I've got a few facts I'll come on to shortly, which they might not talk to me after. And then last but not least, Elisha. So hi, nice to see you. Long time no speak, right? Yeah, we've spoken a few times recently. So Elisha's I suppose background's a bit different. So you started I think your first role was as receptionist in the Manchester Softcat office. Is that right? Yeah. So what I've found out over the past few months with Elisha is just a passion for a passion around talent and people. You know, she's very much a people person. I think you grew up and you proudly say that, you know, single mum household and things, and she had the challenges with that. But what's key is in the 11 years she's been at Softcat, she's really sort of embraced the Softcat culture, and you know, regardless of I think what companies we're all in, Softcat are one of the best at doing culture, right? But that doesn't come from Softcat and just the leadership team. That comes from everyone within, and obviously, you know, we've spoke to Rebecca Monk before on these panels and various other things, and there's a consistency of that. So I think I think where you go next, you've got a big passion around diversity and women in tech in particular.
Yeah.
But women in tech, we spoke the other day very much around, it's just about women and it's anti-men and it's all that stuff. It's about a collective, it's about having allies.
Yeah.
Allies is a big thing, and I'm sure you'll come on to some of that soon.
Absolutely.
So, round of applause for our panel. I didn't get you didn't start off in Softcat reception, did you, Barbara? I didn't get any of that wrong. Okay,
I don't think I saw you there.
That's fine. That's fine. Right, so before we start the questions, I've got a little quiz. Right, so now I don't think the ladies know I'm going to do this, so and it's about the ladies, right? So I will reveal all at the end, but these are the questions to have a think about during the evening.
Oh God, Rich, what are you going to say?
Keep straight faces, please, right? Straight faces, especially you, Rich.
Okay.
So, 2 facts about each person, right? And you have to guess, and we'll do a vote at the end to see how close you get. So the first fact, so this person auditioned for the X Factor because they were convinced they were going to be the UK's answer to Christina Aguilera. Right, that's the first one. Second one, the first thing they learnt to drive in wasn't a car, it was a tractor. Because they grew up on the farm. Because of that, allegedly, they believe they're the best driver out there. Okay? The third one, in their spare time, don't have much spare time, busy ladies, right? But in their little bit of spare time, juggling family and everything else, they run a small craft business. But also, what's nice about this small craft business, they divert a lot of the profits from that small craft business into charitable organisations. So a lot of giving back. Might be a clue in that when we go through the other bits. Another one, at 17, they spent a summer teaching English to kids in Denmark, which seems pretty straightforward, despite not speaking a word of Danish. So that might have been tricky, right? 2 more. This person broadcast a TEDx talk entitled, and I'm not looking at anyone in the room here, Why We Need the Old Boys Network for Women in Business. Okay? And no Googling. And the final one, I'm not looking. They can deadlift 1.5 times their body weight.
Ooh.
Okay? So have a think of those. I'll have a show of hands at the end and we'll have a vote and see how close we are. Okay? So yeah, thank you ladies for sharing, and I'm sorry for stitching you up at the same time. Okay, so I think the opening question, obviously today is about personal brand, personal development, and how important that's becoming more and more in a digital age, in the sense that we try and bring our best selves to work in the office with our colleagues and everything else, but very much our wider community is face-to-face events like this, which is a bit easier to present yourself in a certain light, but obviously the digital footprint it leaves as well. And I think the first one around sort of a personal story from each one of you, if I may, but the first one is sort of starting with a personal moment, if we may. So can you share something that took you out of your comfort zone, but ended up being a pivotal point in your career going forward? And if I start with, I'm looking at you, but I'm going to start with Kim.
So, from my perspective, most of you won't know this, but I actually wanted to be a surgeon growing up. I was a A-star student in science. I was data-driven, but I fell pregnant when I was a teenager. So it completely changed my trajectory and everything that I wanted to do. But saying that, I had one of my teachers at the time turn around and said, you've kind of almost destroyed your life. And I then felt, right, I'm going to prove you wrong. So the pivotal moment for me was that I see that having a child as a teenager was a real blessing. But what it meant for me is my identity was that I'm going to be a surgeon. I grew up, that's what I wanted to do. I studied really hard. I was working at hospitals, trying to get all the experience. And then I knew that that was no longer really going to be an option if I wanted to be a mum and a good mum. And I would say, completely not in my comfort zone at all, I went into sales. I went into sales. And I learned so much. And I then ended up sort of carrying on with that, completely not necessarily what I thought I was going to do at all in my life. But I then ended up doing that, and then actually I found out that I could tell a story really well, and I was selling really well, but I was basing that on the way that I was being able to compel a story, which then led me into marketing. So I take being a teenage mum and an oopsie as a pivotal moment, as a change that absolutely changed and redirected my life, and I'm proud of where I am now, and I'm thankful for that. And it's the teacher that told me that I failed and I should give up on what my dreams were. 2 fingers up to them, sort of thing. And I think that we're doing all right. So yeah, that's a little bit from my side.
Thank you for being honest. Yeah, that's an amazing story. And Bharti, yourself?
So no, not going far back as that. As a teenager, I think a pivotal moment for me was probably about 7-8 years ago. I had postnatal depression, quite severe postnatal depression. And I'd been working in cybersecurity all of my career up to that point anyway. But I was always kind of hiding behind other people, thinking I wasn't capable as much as the men, because I always worked with men. Sure. There's hardly any women that were in cybersecurity, especially back then. There's a lot more now than there was then. And then when I had postnatal depression, in hindsight, there's a silver lining to it. And at the time, obviously, it was devastating what was going on. But I ended up taking a solo holiday whilst I think he was 9 months old, my second child. So I left my husband with my 2 children, went away for 4 days on my own, and realised that I could do lots of things that I felt like I couldn't do anymore. But whilst I was away, I then took some books, read some books, and decided that I wanted to change the way that I kind of appeared at work. And so I decided that I was going to create a brand, and I was going to become somebody who was visible instead of invisible. And so I think that was a pivotal moment for me. And just learning that actually I could do things on my own again. Sure. So before I went away, before I got on the plane, I was sick because I felt so guilty for leaving. And then when I got there, I was in a hotel room going, oh my God, what do I do now? And it felt really hard to go and eat dinner on my own, but actually it was the best thing I ever did, is realising that actually I'm still so capable of doing so many things, and I have taken lots of solo holidays since then, because now I have to take them.
For my mental health.
But I think every time I take one, I find that I come back as a different person, more confident, more believing in myself or what I can achieve. And I come back wanting to achieve more every single time. So I think that's probably a pivotal moment in my career.
And I think it's interesting the point you make about being visible and not invisible. I think part of the invisibility is often our own mindset rather than actually what other people perceive, right? So I think that's a brave thing to do, and I'm glad you found that pivotal moment to do that. So thank you for sharing that. And Elisha?
Thank you. And both of those were amazing. So for me, when I look at my career, I kind of see it in 2 halves. I see it post having my little boy, and pre and post having my little boy. So I had my little boy Max in 2021, returned from maternity leave, and I felt different to what people had told me I was going to feel. A lot of people told me that you were probably going to potentially want to take a step back, maybe think about going part-time, which I did. But I felt this real energy and this real want to drive forward and do more and be more, similar to what you were saying, Bharti. So I came back, and in that first year really kind of hit it hard, very much through my own wanting. I had everybody around me going, relax, we've not forgotten you. But I just wanted more, and I could feel it in myself. I had more to give, and as a result, I ended up being put on our leadership development program at Softcat. And the culmination of that program is a presentation to our full SLT and ELT team, which is about 45 people, organisation-wide. Definitely at that point the most high-pressure presentation I'd done in my career to date. And I started the programme knowing that was the end and spent the next 6 months dreading the hell out of that end. Got to it, I prepped the hell out of it for weeks in advance, got to the actual presentation and thankfully killed it. Everyone really liked it and I got lots of really positive feedback, off the back of which I was on a high, and I promised myself as a result of that presentation I would do anything that anybody asked me to do that scared me, because that had scared the crap out of me and it had been such a great thing for me, my career, my development. This isn't the turning point or the realisation moment just yet. So that happened. I promise you I'm getting there, I promise.
I warned you about this, Liz.
I promise you. So that happened, and we have an evening of celebration. The next day I'm on the train back to Manchester after having made this promise to myself the day before. And I get a call from Elisha Kirkham, who I imagine many of you probably know. And basically she says, you're not going to like what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to ask you to do it anyway. We have a keynote at CRM Women in Tech this year, and off the back of your presentation yesterday, we want you to do it. And I was like, fuck. I've literally promised myself that I'll do anything that scares me, and my immediate reaction was that terrifies the hell out of me. And I said yes. And I genuinely believe that's the reason I'm here with you guys today. I think that was the turning point of my career. That LFP presentation through to the CRN talk, and it really did show me that it sounds like such a cliche, but doing the stuff that scares you is the only way to develop and push yourself forward. So that was my turning point. Got there in the end, Rich.
You've just started. You've just started, yeah. So if you need Liz to speak at any other event, she's available. So. No, thank you, ladies. Really, really good, really good. So stepping outside of our industry and looking at sort of external influences, we're talking about personal brand today. So I think one of the questions I have for you all is if you look external to the industry, but you've learnt from somebody how they've portrayed their personal brand in a positive light, or one that you align to your own values, who would you pick out? And I'll ask this to Bharti first.
I know you were joking.
Yeah.
I had to think really hard about this. So actually, because I've got so many people inside the industry that inspire me, it was really hard to find someone outside, which is cause crazy, isn't it? Because lots of people are inspired. So I had to really think about this. I got to Taylor Swift.
Yay!
So I got to Taylor Swift, and the reason behind it was because I felt like I could resonate in some of the things that she's done. So, a lot of people told her a bit like what you've been told, that you can't do that. But it's like, yes, I can. And she's done that. Every time someone said to her, you can't do that, she's gone, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, whether you like it or not. And she carries on. And then she gives back. And she gave money, obviously, when she did her concerts. So she donated to the food banks, and I thought it was amazing. I know that she increased the payments that went out to people that were working for her on the tour. I think that is a really amazing thing to do, to recognise the people that are around you that are helping you get to where you are. And then also the fact that she just keeps rebranding herself, and she just keeps evolving, and she keeps doing that, and I feel like that's what I'm trying to do.
With your holidays.
Well, yes. I don't know if they're for rebranding, just my own sanity, but she keeps doing it, and I think that's really inspiring. And she essentially created a business, because I didn't go to her concert, but I saw all of the posts about people that did, and the community she created from that, all the bracelets and all of those things, and people rehearsing her songs for days on end and travelling around the world to see her. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So if I could achieve that, I don't know why.
Aspirations then.
I don't know why people want to follow me around the world, but it's pretty impressive. So yes, I think she's got a very good brand.
So you're a Swiftie?
Actually, I'm not, but I'm inspired by what she's doing.
Right, okay. I need to differentiate because there is a difference.
Yeah.
So my 18-year-old daughter told me, so. No, thank you, Bharti. And Kim?
So I think that there's people going right back into history that have actually, from even when I was young and growing up, that I think have been really instrumental. So you may find this a little different, but I think that people that are unapologetically themselves, and they are authentic and they are real, are the people that I think have got the best personal brand. And so who I think actually inspires me, love or hate them. I'll give you two examples. I think from Princess Diana right through to Margaret Thatcher. But right from like with Princess Diana, she was there. She got down and she would hug people and the kids at age, even though it wasn't allowed. It wasn't what royals did. She didn't care.
Yeah.
She stuck to her own morals and what she believed in, and she did that. That's what she wanted to do. So she got down on her knees and she was hugging kids that she genuinely felt passionate about. And the same with Margaret Thatcher. Again, whatever your political bias might be, she would walk into a room and she did not care what other people thought of her. She would give her opinion and she would stand by what she genuinely thought and believed. And I think that anyone that I'm in awe of anyone that can hold their own values to that level, and that is what they then portray as their brand, and they do not compromise on who they are as an individual just to be liked or seen.
I think that's really. I never thought I'd get Princess Diana and Margaret Thatcher the same, but no, I think it's a good point. I think the way Princess Diana started to engage with the audience, if you like, and getting down on that same level was unique. Nobody else had ever done that as a royal, and I think that got a lot of empathy and that sort of changed. You see it with William now, right? That's where he's got his from, and I think Margaret Thatcher, like her or hate her, she was the first female leader of a Western country, and she went through a few terms, obviously, as well, which to do that in its own sense, if we think these days, right, we could do with maybe a bit of Margaret Thatcher's attributes today to some degree. Not all of them, but some of them. Leash, over to you. Can you follow
No, not
Taylor Swift
not
and
at all.
Margaret Thatcher,
Not
Princess
at all.
Diana?
I definitely let the side down with this one, so I frantically gathered the troops before this and was like, I can't think of anybody, can you help me? And they did. But I'm really jealous that I didn't think of Taylor Swift, because I am a Swiftie.
Yeah.
So I can't believe I didn't think of her. But mine, I actually really loved when it got mentioned, just because I think he's transitioned so well from one career to a completely different career, and has done it in such a successful way that people are looking at him and talking about him for the highest office in the land. And mine is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Because for me, to be able to don't laugh, I'm serious.
He's great at ballers.
But on a serious note, from a PR perspective and from a brand point of view,
That's only joking.
I ran with it, Barty. But for me, genuinely, when you look at it, to have gone from, I'm not even going to pretend to know anything about wrestling, but to have gone from what he was doing back then to being a credible actor, to actually kind of tongue-in-cheek, but kind of not, being talked about as a potential president, that level of transformation over the years, you've got to have a pretty significantly strong brand to be able to change people's mind in that way. So you were joking, Barty, but I am not.
Very good. Well, thank you. Well, so we had 2 American and 2 UK.
We did.
So,
Same oil.
yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank you for that. So I suppose that pushes on to sort of, if we look at sort of maintaining a personal brand in terms of within this room, within people in this room and yourselves, what's the one key attribute that you say you need in the sense to maintain the authenticity or the transparency of that personal brand? And I will come to you, Elisha.
I can answer this one.
Yeah.
I there's a few things I really racked my brain, but I just kept coming back to courage, and that sounds quite deep and but I really do feel like you have to have a certain level of courage and real just kind of rooted in who you are and an ability to be able to give that to other people regardless of how it's going to land and what that perception is going to be of you. So I think a real courage to be who you are, understand who you are, and provide other people with that regardless of how they receive it, I think is probably the most important bit.
Yeah, good point. And Bharti?
Very similar to that, I think. Like, I guess being authentic and just being who you are, knowing who you are as a person. Because if you're going to put that out there, it's got to be the person that you can continue to be and not pretend to be somebody that you're not trying. That you put on as a persona, and then suddenly you've got to keep it up for like the next 20 years of your life. And I think if people are great, one of the things that I've learned over the years of working in business is that people relate to other people. And so if they get to see the real you, then, and they can relate to you, then it's going to make it a lot easier for them to be able to work with you, to be able to trust you and believe you and ask you for things. You know, so all of those things, I think, you know, it's just being genuinely yourself.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. And Kim?
I would say be prepared to be a little bit vulnerable. I think that there is a lot of shiny stuff that you get to see, and I think that we're all a little bit deeper than that in our soul, and we've all got backstories. We all have things that have perhaps not gone perfectly in our lives that make us and have shaped us, and we should own it and feel proud that we have come through it and we've got to the other side. So whatever your story is, if it is grief, if it is, you know, whatever it might be, own it and be prepared to show an element of that within what you are comfortable of, because that will shine through and that makes you real and that makes you likable and human. And no one wants this statue facade that you get to see. So that would be mine.
I think good advice for those. I think good advice, and I think that segues nicely into our next question, which, if we think of those attributes and we think of pushing them into the digital space, and probably LinkedIn in a B2B world is the number one at this moment in time, and I think you could argue there's room for something else to happen in that world. But what do you think are the biggest challenges in portraying who, you know, Kim, Bharti and Elisha are in this room, speaking face to face, you know, to people here, to how you portray that in a digital world, and what do you guys do to manage that in that sense? And maybe Kim, if I can start with you this time.
Yeah, cool. I actually don't like posting very much on LinkedIn personally, but I think that's and I'm being really honest with you, because that is me being a bit vulnerable and being a bit open, and I feel it can feel a bit like judgmental, but I need to get over that, and that's me personally, and I know I need to get over it. And getting up here and one of these things, as much as I might sound quite confident talking, I don't necessarily love doing this. I don't, but I've had to always come from a place where I feel like this is a little bit ego boosty, and I have to realise that actually, you know, you can learn from when you talk and your way you share. But I would say from a digital perspective, that's much harder to see. But what I would say is be prepared to not just be this glass facade. Share your successes and your failures, is what I would say. I think we see too much. I know we're talking LinkedIn specifically here, but if you think about the influence on Instagram, for example, they show these Photoshop perfect pictures all the time that are not real, they are not authentic. So if you're going to put yourself out there on LinkedIn, if you're going to talk about things, make sure that you are showing a real human in yourself. But not even just that. If you're not comfortable posting, probably a bit just like, comment, and show your authenticity through a like or a comment for someone else. So even if you don't want to put yourself out on a pedestal because that doesn't fit well with you as your own personality, it doesn't hurt to still like or put a comment and like, that's amazing. You can still show who you are in your brand by liking or saying something about somebody else just as much as you can with your own posts.
I think that's a great point, Kim, because I think we've seen more of that.
Yeah.
I've noticed over the last 6-12 months there's more people engaging, and because it's building communities, right? It's building communities of like-minded people. So yeah, I think that's a good point. Bharti?
So I think very similar to that about posting both sides of things. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, I posted a video of me taking a tumble down Sand Dune the other day. I did debate it and decided that I'd post it anyway, just for comedy factor if nothing else. And so speaking to, I'm a mentor, and I speak to my mentee, and she said, well, isn't LinkedIn meant to be professional? And I was like, well, okay, now I'm going to show you this is what you can also do with LinkedIn. Because that is the other side of me. You know, I do like to have a little bit of fun. I will laugh at myself. And I posted something, I can't remember what day it is now, but I think it was yesterday or Monday, about my son, and he has autism. And I posted a mum post. And I think, like, people have got to know me through that. And so I tend to post things that are a mixture of things. There'll be something maybe a bit technical, and then there might be something about me or something that I've done. Or I always try to do things where I say, like, you know, okay, if I can go to a school and have a conversation with children about, you know, coming into tech and coming into cyber, then actually imagine if you all did one sport.
Yes.
So I always try to do it so that it gives people a bit of food for thought about maybe things that they could be doing. Because I think it's more about education as well.
Yes,
You know, if I'm posting, it's for other people to kind of maybe go, actually, I'd never thought of doing that. So I tend to post things like that, where I think my brand has probably happened very much on LinkedIn. I know most people in this room via LinkedIn. You know, we hadn't even met in person. But I did attend your talk, so I did see you talk live. But it has created a community for me of people that I've met. So I think it can work for you as long as you are posting genuine things. Like I never post about things that I'm uncomfortable. I post about my mental health. So I am very open about all of the challenges that I face. But all the good things. It's also like a little nice place to say, well, you know, I've had a tough time, and actually now I've got it around. Because I think other people need to see that that's the case too.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like you said, it's not perfect for everybody, and we do have challenges that people don't see. And I think it's really important to understand that actually some days I'm going to have a bad day because my child's having a bad day, and you need to know that because you work with you. And it's a great way of getting that out there.
I think it's a good point, and especially in like the hybrid workplace now that we sort of sit in is, before it was like we used to call it, having a cup of tea and catching up in the canteen at work, and I know sometimes we're in the office now, sometimes we're not, and so it's a community within your colleagues, but also because your community is a lot wider through social media now. You've got to get that balance, haven't you? And I think not everybody's comfortable doing what you do, but if that works for you, then that's what works, right? There's not a right or wrong, I don't think, and that's the point. Okay. Elisha.
So mine is kind of linked to what Kim said, and also what you've just said there, Rich, around kind of that having a brew, connecting in that way. The way we used to kind of build a brand, if you want to put it like that, is by having a brew in the kitchen, in meetings, connecting with people, and it was a much more subtle approach to brand building and creating that perception of you. In this digital age, it is so much less organic, and it is more about getting proactive and quite intentional, which I actually really enjoy. And I know you do too, Bharti, and Kim's kind of the other end of it, and you're not so comfortable with it. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we face in this digital age, specifically for women, but I don't want to generalise too much, is that can trigger the hell out of all of the age-old conditioning we've had as women, but also generally as humans. That we shouldn't talk about ourselves too much. You shouldn't talk about your achievements. You shouldn't be out there talking about, oh, I did this thing, or I've done this, or because that's not very palatable, and that's not what we definitely as women are taught growing up that we should be doing and how we should be showcasing ourselves. So I think it's really a case of, and this is really me on my feminist high horse, but it really is a case of fighting back against that age-old conditioning. I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face in this digital age. Getting to a place where it feels uncomfortable that you do it anyway. Because if we don't, then no one ever will. And then what's going to happen? We're just going to sit in our little boxes and not talk about all the great things we're doing. Yvonne's a really great example of this. I know you've pushed through some uncomfortableness that you've had yourself, and you were talking about it, Kim. You feel quite uncomfortable with it. I think it's leaning into that and accepting that it's not going to feel comfortable at first. This is the world we live in now, so we need to do this more. And if you are confident and capable of doing it, then we need to be leading the way for the other women who aren't yet, because the more they see it, the more they'll be able to do it and be it. Wow, that rhymed.
It's just my
Have you got that for a soundbite?
So yeah.
I think, again, that's a good point. I think we've got to keep challenging and innovating, and because nothing will move on. We won't be sat here doing this type of thing. And I think that digital space and LinkedIn and there's most engagements I have now with new people is in the first instance is digital. It's an in-mail or whatever it is directly that way. So we can't ignore the fact that it's there, right? But what's important to the points you ladies have made there is presenting ourselves in the right manner and in the way that is us and how we want to be perceived is so important. And we don't always get it right. That's the other thing, we don't always get it right. And there might be something we go, maybe shouldn't have sent that, or I should have said it in that way, but that's fine as well. We all make mistakes, so I don't think we should beat ourselves up. But as long as we're not doing it time and time again, right? It's like anything. So yeah, thank you for that. Really We're nearly at the end of the question. And then the quiz will come round. So imposter syndrome. Obviously, this is spoken about a lot, and we've touched on it at other events as well. But this question is sort of, what advice would you give to someone who's sort of introverted, or they're struggling with what we class as imposter syndrome, and somebody who wants to sort of get themselves out of the shell a little bit and build a much more outward focused persona by still being the true self, not pretending to be someone they're not, but what advice would you give around that side? And I'll go for Bharti first this time.
That's a hard question. I think if you were trying to get out of that mindset of that you've got imposter syndrome and trying to network and create, meet people, I think doing it face to face is always a little bit easier. Going with creating some set questions that you're going to ask and try to introduce yourself, and then kind of expand from there. It's really difficult to do it digitally, because you do have that feeling. You put something out there, and then do people like it? And obviously this is then the dopamine hit. Somebody liked it, didn't like it, someone commented, didn't comment, how many comments, and you get into this whole thing. And obviously if you don't get lots of comments or likes, then it will stop you from doing it the next time. Whereas if you're face to face with someone, and there are so many little networking events like this that you can go to, and you can start meeting people, it's much easier to start creating that little network and get used to speaking to people that are in the channel or in similar roles that you can, or have got, that you can identify with because they're going through some of the similar challenges that you are. So I think if you are struggling with imposter syndrome, obviously you're not an imposter if you're never pretending to be somebody that you aren't. But it's always easier to do it face to face, I think. And it just to build that up, and eventually you'll find that those people, some of the people you haven't even met will support you online digitally afterwards. Like they'll just keep putting messages on there and supporting you and being cheerleaders and all sorts of things. But it's a great way to start.
I think that's good advice, and I think what you touched on there, I was speaking, I don't know if it was with you, Elisha, the other day, but as obviously algorithms are changing with social media, like if you look at your personal Facebook or Instagram or whatever it might be, LinkedIn's the same right now. So everyone, unless it's the odd post, everyone in here, I bet now, get less likes, less engagements. They might get more views and more impressions, but it's changing because algorithms are changing. It's not because you're changing. It's not that you're a lesser person or you're not, what you're talking about is not as interesting. So we've got to have that mindset as well and I think there's a bit of fatigue, timeline fatigue of people going through, it's another post, and because more we connect with, guess what? There's more in our feed. So I think we're at this inflection point in terms of social media and from a B2B perspective, and I think there's a gap in the market. Whoever absorbs that, it might be Al, I don't know, Al's up there, he's got some ideas, but...
I'm just thinking you want more likes.
Yeah, exactly. You never like mine anyway, so... But yeah, so I think that's an important factor to consider. So Leash?
Yeah. So when I was thinking about imposter syndrome, I was thinking about when we feel that, what are we actually thinking and feeling? And when you actually really boil it down, imposter syndrome is all about what other people are thinking. It's not about how you feel, it's not about what you think, it's all about the people around you. And we're really just projecting a lot of what we think other people are feeling onto others. So I think if I was to give somebody advice as to how to overcome or start overcoming imposter syndrome, I think it'd be more focused around go inwards, figure out why you're doing what you're doing and stay rooted in that. So if you're wanting to be in that room around that table, why does that mean something to you? Because as soon as you start flipping that on its head and get much more intentional with what your motivations are and try to shut that noise out about what other people are thinking about you, it becomes much more rooted in something much more authentic and real, and then it's easier to run with. So I think as much as I'm making that sound super simple, and I know it's not simple for many, many people, that would be where I start. Do some work around going inwards and trying to understand your motivations for being in that room. As soon as you understand that better, that should hopefully shut out a bit of that noise around what other people are thinking and allow you to focus more on you.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice.
I think that's good advice, and I think the inward piece is something probably some people don't think about. They think it's the opposite, right? And you have to go extrovert straight away, and you need to find your why. And I think that's where some sort of channel buddies as well, I know they've helped a number of people in the past find out their why and their purpose and how to direct that journey as well. So good advice, thank you. Kim?
Okay, so I think firstly, if you feel that you're a little bit introverted, or if you walk into a room and you feel like I think when you think about imposter syndrome, you think that you're not really worthy of being in that space. That's kind of how I think about it. I just think, firstly, if you're feeling like that, embrace that you feel like that, understand it, recognize it, so that you can actually go in there with the confidence to be like, I'm either not going to let that imposter syndrome impact me in this environment, because I can guarantee, I know I personally have walked into a room before, especially slightly earlier on in my career. I was CMO at 30, and I remember walking into a room and I was the youngest CMO in the room. Everyone was really like a lot older than me. And I thought, I'm not worthy of being here, I'm too young, I don't have the experience. I've lived through that, and you have to just kind of get yourself to the point, actually, I am in this role because I'm really damn good at my job, and you need to just appreciate where you are in your career and your path. And if you're a bit shy and you are a bit timid, there will be someone else in the room that is also a little bit shy and a little bit timid. And if you don't feel that you've got the confidence to walk into a room and network freely, grab someone that you do know that can help you to network in that space. Let them help to introduce you, because once you then know a couple of extra people, you won't feel as shy or as intimidated in that room. You'll have a few people that you feel comfortable to go to. And the more you put yourself out there in those environments, the more you get used to it. It doesn't become such a big deal. But I would say, don't let it hold you back if that is how you're feeling. Just embrace it, and then try to find mechanisms that you can adapt the way that you work that works for you as an individual. Because not everyone is the same.
Yeah, that's good advice. It's going out your comfort zone again, right? It's back to that piece. So, thank you. Right, quick fire round. Are you ready for this? Quick fire round, please. So, I'll start with you because I'll pick it up. So, one personal branding no-no.
Oh God, so much pressure. One personal branding no-no. Swear words. I'm really against, and obviously, but I say bloody quite a lot. But anything
It's not a swear word.
past that, we're not counting bloody, no. But anything past that, I think that is I'm all for authenticity, but I think that's verging into too much.
No, thank you, Bharti.
Oh, I don't know.
It's really pressurised.
I know. I know some people like this, but I don't like to be really controversial on things like social media. Because I'm not doing it because I want someone to. I need lots of likes and comments.
Yeah.
But so it works for some people. For me, it doesn't
Yeah.
work. I don't want to be that person. I don't like it in real life, so I don't want to do it just because it's on social media and I'm behind my keyboard. Doesn't mean I should do it there. So that's my no.
Not a keyboard warrior. No, that's good. Kid.
Don't say anything, anywhere, ever, if your kids hear it in the future, that you wouldn't be proud of what you said.
Yeah.
That would be my branding. Like, if you feel that that's that's a no.
Yeah. And it's there forever on the internet, right?
Yeah.
If it gets on there, yeah. So it's a good point. That is a good point. So this one, I suppose, Bart, you answered to some degree, so I won't start with you.
Okay.
But favourite way to reset or re-energise, Kim?
Read a book.
Okay.
I would say, and I don't mean an educational book. I mean, for me, picking up a novel, picking up something that is fiction, escape, get away, so I can switch off. That would be mine.
Yeah. Barbara Cartland or something like that?
Yeah,
No,
I'm actually really...
Julie Cooper? No,
I'm
just
really
I was just checking.
yeah.
Yeah. Good advice. Leash?
2, either a run or a glass of wine and Grey's Anatomy. There's not really an in-between for me. So
Not running with the wine.
I mean, we can try it.
Right, okay.
We can give it a go.
Right. I want to see that on social media, right? Yeah. And obviously you've touched on this with your getaway trips and things, but anything else?
So I do like to go to the gym.
Okay.
And I do like reading books that are educational. So
You're allowed.
I'm
You're allowed.
I'm reading one about like this is how the world is. It's to do with AI.
Wow, bring it down a bit, Martin.
So I think you should read any books that you like.
Yeah, you
do.
I do like holidays, and actually this is the first time where I went on holiday, apart from obviously sending you a message. But I went on holiday and I came off LinkedIn for 2 weeks. When I came back, I felt really out of the loop.
Yeah.
But actually, did I really miss anything important? But I did switch off.
Yeah.
And so I was really grateful for switching off.
Yeah.
But I do love holiday.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, probably 10 years ago, I made a pledge that when I'm on holiday, I'm on holiday. My phone goes in the safe. I check it for messages, so message me if there's something urgent, that's it. So it's important because you need that downtime to re-energise, because guess what, you'll get that one email that niggles at back of our minds, spoils the family holiday, and then you're in trouble at both sides, right? So you might as well only be in trouble at one. That's the way I see it. So it's a good point. So, right, the final question. Most unexpected feedback you've ever received, and this is to Bharti first.
Is this good or bad feedback?
Well, I'm not saying. I'll let you decide.
So,
Unexpected.
I'm really good at doing these things. I think that was probably one of them. I don't know, because I think I get unexpected feedback all the time, which people just assume that I'm not technical. And well, that just really grates on me. So, but I've had people say that they think that I wasn't technical, despite all of the job titles I've ever had. So that's probably unexpected. And it's just that I should get more technical.
Has that changed over time?
I'm not as technical as I used to be,
Right.
just because security is so fast paced and I have children and my brain cannot take so much
No, I get
information.
that, yeah.
And I'm now a woman of a certain age and the information's falling out. So yeah.
Happens to men as well.
Well, I struggle to remember my neighbour's name sometimes, and I've lived next to them for 10 years. So, it's pretty bad. So I'm not as technical as I used to be, but I'm still pretty technical.
Yeah.
So I think that was unexpected feedback I've had from people.
Thank you. That's good, Kim.
So I would say this is probably a little bit earlier on in my career, and we all take on probably a little bit too much. We always probably have a workload that's probably a little bit like this. We've got the capacity of about this. And I would say and for those people that know me, I really don't like doing graphic design stuff, but I had a go. And I pulled something together super, super quick, handed it over. And they were like, this is amazing. And I left that thinking, I don't have to be perfect all the time. And I would say that's one thing that I then have learned since then, and I've learned it quite quick, that sometimes it's okay to not to be a perfectionist in everything that you do. Sometimes getting things done to a level that is okay is sometimes okay. I'm not saying that all the time. There are certain times you need to put that extra work in and have a standard, but sometimes it is okay to know that that's enough is enough.
Yeah, okay, that's good advice. Yeah, good advice. And Leash?
Yeah, so I toyed with, I think I mentioned this to you yesterday, I toyed with whether to talk about this one because it actually does make me feel quite vulnerable, and going back to your point earlier, Kim. And I'll caveat this with the person who gave me this feedback is a different generation to me and very much not kind of on LinkedIn really at all. But a year or two ago, when I first started kind of focusing a little bit more intentionally on the brand piece, I had the feedback that I needed to focus on being perceived as more humble when it comes to the content I was posting. And that was really hard for a number of reasons, because I think as a woman, hearing that, it really didn't sit well with me, because immediately I went to would saying that to a man. And secondly, I know myself, going back to understanding yourself and knowing yourself, I know myself so well. Anyone who knows me knows that it's the opposite of who I am and what I'm about. And I actually spent a week later a 2-hour train journey to London scrolling through my LinkedIn content, because it had lived that rent-free in my brain for a week, scrolling through, trying to see what this person had seen or read or gauged from it that had given that impression. And I objectively had to sit back and go, I cannot see it. Like, I can't see it. And it was at that moment that I had that realisation of, you are never going to be everyone's cup of tea. Nothing is ever going to be anyone's cup of tea, and that has to be okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll torture ourselves with the opinions of people who don't really matter to us for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be nice.
Well, I think that's good. We can agree to disagree with different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's different, and I think for them to make a note of that is their issue, obviously, and I think we seem to be, each year that goes by, I feel like we're breaking them sort of barriers down, and things like this are helping, so I think that's a good thing. So I have got one of the. I've scrolled down. I've got one of the questions that Liv sent me. So, which is malicious, but we'll talk about that. So, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice about your personal growth and visibility, if you were to do it again, what would it be? And I'll come to you first. Just now.
You are literally the only thing holding you back. You can do anything you put your mind to. Somebody, and again, this is a bit of a turning point for me, somebody stood in front of me a couple of years ago and said, I don't understand why you can't see that you can do anything you put your mind to. And I had this moment of realisation of, why can't I see that? What's stopping me? And it literally was just me. I was putting these weird abstract limitations around myself and what I was capable of. Nobody had ever told me that. So yeah, my advice would be as simple as you can do anything you put your mind to, you just got to go do it.
That's good advice. And Bharti, you say?
I think probably back to your answer that you gave, I would say start earlier. I didn't start too much later doing all of this and my branding and stuff, but also not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay, because actually I don't like everyone. And I went to counselling after I had postnatal depression, and my counsellor pointed this out to me because I was trying to get everyone to like me, and she was like, you don't like everyone. I was like, that's a very fair point. So, equally, it's okay if people don't like you and what you're doing, and that's their problem, not yours.
We are getting on better now.
I know.
Depends.
I would say, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would say, do you know what, you're going to be alright. I think I had a lot of insecurities when I was younger. I think I let what other people thought of me impact me a little bit too much. And I just think if I could just give myself that little bit of reassurance that if you've got a dream or if you've got a goal, go for it. Be a bit brave. Don't let anything, pretty much similar to what these other two ladies have just said, don't let anyone else hold you back. You're basically in charge of your own destiny, so go do it.
I think that's fantastic advice, and yeah, thank all three of you. I mean, yeah, some honest, very transparent and very varied opinion there, which is obviously what these nights are about, and sharing that. Being up here is not easy, and I know some like it, some don't, and I think each time you do it, you're breaking that barrier, to Kim's point earlier, and I think to have the support of this many people in one room, I think this is probably one of our best hosted events at the moment, looking at the numbers. But no, I think before I go on to some of the questions I asked at the beginning, a bit of a fun quiz, I think let's give the ladies a round of applause. Right, let's see how close we can guess after all that information. And some people mentioned about the gym and other bits, so that might give it away a little bit. But in terms of the questions I asked at the beginning, and we'll have a show of hands to see how close we get on these ones. So the first one was about the X Factor, if I'm not mistaken. Keep straight face. So who on the panel thinks they're the UK's version of Christina Aguilera and auditioned for the X Factor? And I will go with who thinks it's Kim. Okay. Okay. Leash? And Bharti.
I could be throwing you off the set.
You're right, it was Leash. Yeah, so they're good at it. Can you keep a straighter face and stop voting, Bharti? Okay. So, which of these good ladies learned to drive in a tractor before any other vehicle? Was it Leash?
Wow, that says so much about you, me.
You don't look like a tractor type of girl. No. Kim? Right, there's no point even saying Bharti. You're right, it was Kim. So well done. In their spare time, they run a small craft business, this lady. But also, a lot of that profit goes to charity. Is that Leash? Wow. Thanks, Doug. You've got lots of Bharti.
Thanks, Doug.
That's sort of half a vote, though, to be honest. Is it Bharti? Good out of these. It is Bharti, yeah. So it's very good. Well done. At 17, they spent a summer teaching English to Danish students, but doesn't speak a word of Danish. Is it Kim? Okay. Yeah. Is it Leash?
Yeah.
Is it Bharti? Yes, we've got this.
We
We've
got
filled
one.
them. We've filled them. Who was it, ladies? We got one. We got one.
At least one.
Okay. Last two. This lady broadcast the TEDx publication around why we need the Old Boys Network for women in business. Was it Kim? You sure? You sure it's not? Bharti? Leash. It was Bharti. Well done, everyone. Well done. What sort of, going back to the craft thing, 'cause it's on my mind, what sort of craft do you make?
So t-shirts and mugs, bottles, all sorts of things.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
don't do it anymore. I used to. I've stopped because I did do it during lockdown and I raised £7,000.
Oh, wow.
And that went into making visors for the ICU units
Oh.
and for first responders, and then it went to refuge because they were experienced high rates of domestic abuse. It went to AGK because obviously all the old people were struggling. And then I've done some water aid. There's money for some food banks.
Fantastic.
So I did loads of it, and quite honestly, it was just a lot.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
still do my day job. And I
Yeah,
have kids at
you've not
home.
got
Yeah,
enough on
yeah.
the plate already.
Yeah, I was making t-shirts in my kitchen
Yeah.
every night after the kids went to bed, and it was just a lot.
Fantastic.
So eventually, I kind of realised that I just needed to stop trying to be a superwoman
Yeah, yeah.
and just focus on my day job.
Something had to give, right? Something to. Well, round of applause for £7,000. Very good, well done. And the final one is my favourite. This lady can deadlift 1.5 times her body weight. Is it? And there was some clues earlier. Was it Bharti? Was it Kim?
I feel like they all could.
Some more, right? Some more. Was it Leash? Oh, it's touch and go, but I think Leash just got it. You were right. It was
I
Leash.
thought we had another
Yeah,
one.
yeah. So that's everything from our perspective. Is there any questions? I'll open it to the floor for the ladies. Please put your hand up, and we'll start with Lindsay.
Are any of you using AI for your personal brand? Using it at all to do anything?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
But I think I'm in the minority. And I think that's because I studied creative writing at uni, so I actually really enjoy like putting an article together, putting a post together, whatever it is. So that's something that I will happily do in my own time. And actually, going back to the piece around what you do to relax, it probably is Grey's Anatomy, writing an article and having a glass of wine.
Wow.
But yeah, I know so many people who do utilise it really effectively. So I personally don't, but just because I enjoy it, I do see benefits.
I just wonder if it comes up as a bit machiney, if it's yeah. Well, I mean, you know that they're going to take over the world, Bharti. I want to like pick your brain about your books. What's
What
on
about
Bharti's
you guys?
nice
You
snack?
use it?
No, I don't, because I feel like that's not then authentically real and
Yeah.
human. And I think I try to make sure that my personal brand is about me as a human, and that pretty much takes away that. But that being said, would I use AI to mash together a few photos or create a video? 100% I would, as long as I can keep. But would I use it to actually write me? No, I wouldn't. So would I use it to enhance and speed up getting it out there? Yes, I would.
And I don't use it. Actually, I'm trying to do the opposite and put less stuff out there, just because I find that social media has a negative impact on my mental health. And so I spent about 6 months last year looking at everybody else and going, I'm not doing enough stuff, I'm not doing enough. and comparing myself to what everyone else is doing. And that's absolutely not true. But whilst I'm on social media, I find that that's what I end up doing. So I've actually I'm doing less social media just because it's for my own kind of mental health.
Nice.
Of not trying to keep comparing myself to what everybody else is doing.
I think that's important, isn't it? So, any other questions? Ryan?
So, listening to the story and how you all found your calling from the start, that you gave you your differentiator, well, clearly, I think one word which holds true is jealousy. People were jealousy as you were working out what you're going to be doing. I think that comes through in the industry is there's people that will go out there and compete to do stuff and they're jealous. And I think that's quite uncomfortable to deal with because if you don't have the experience of dealing with them, you don't quite know what they are jealous. You just feel as if your comments, well, you encumber them. There's a lot of jealousy, which I think you've got to try and figure out how we address that, but also with self-confidence and the spark is, you've got to try and keep.
Any answers to that, ladies?
So I think jealousy can come across a lot of the time in the form of cringe. So I think you hear this word, it's such a flippant word, we've been all using it since we were kids, right? Oh God, that makes me cringe, or he makes me cringe, or that makes me cringe, or whatever. In actual fact, I think I kind of over the last year or two, because I actually had somebody say to me that my LinkedIn content made them cringe. So I went on a bit of a journey of trying to understand what makes people cringe, and do I need to make that about me, or is that more about other people? And I actually found it really interesting, the psychology behind the idea of cringe or jealousy or whatever it is, and this idea that in actual fact, when someone's cringing, whether it be you or whether it be somebody else, a lot of the time, and most of the time, it's because they have reached the limits of their own comfort zone within self-expression. And that's a them thing. So here's their comfort zone where self-expression is concerned, and they've hit their limit by watching what you're doing, and you have triggered them in some way, and that's why they are cringing at you, and they may not have the self-awareness to understand that that's why, but that's not a you thing. And going through that journey to understand that for myself, I think was really impactful, and I think that links really closely to the likes of jealousy, etc. A lot of it's coming from a place of people don't understand what's going on for them, they're feeling all of these negative emotions, and they're just directing it at you. Very rarely, if ever, is that actually about you. Obviously, if you're cutting about being super arrogant on LinkedIn 24/7, then yeah, maybe look at what you're doing. But that's not what most people are doing, and if people are feeling those emotions towards you, the likelihood is it's more about them and what they've got going on versus you. And it is such an age-old cliche, but I actually do think that is the case in 90% of cases. So I'd say that's probably where you're coming from, Brian, right?
Also, just to add to that, this might be a bit controversial. I think jealousy is okay. It's the behaviour of how you then feel of that jealousy that is not okay. And I think that I'm sitting here, she's talking about her holidays, I'm thinking, I haven't had a day off since Christmas, and I'm jealous over here about her holiday. But that's not me, the way that you then think or behave is what's then important. And I think it's important for everybody to recognise when they're acting inappropriately based on their own jealousy. But to feel jealous, I think it's an emotion that we all feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay, it's the behaviour it's not.
And I think we need to be, definitely younger women coming up through their careers, really embedding that ideology that you can't shrink yourself to become people feel comfortable. You can't. That's not a way to go through life. And it's their job on the other side of that emotion to do the work, to understand what's going on for them, and see that as an invitation to level up. Like if you're seeing something that's making you go, oh, I don't know how I feel about that, then that to me is your invitation to level up and do more, whether it be that exact thing or whether it just be excel in another area, whatever that is. That's you telling yourself, I want to be doing more, I want to be more recognised, I want more. That's not about that person. So I think it's really important, we were talking about this yesterday, to change that narrative for younger women coming through, because we were never taught that. We were taught to be quiet, be small, don't make anyone else feel uncomfortable. And we need to be changing that narrative. Whether you're a woman in the room, whether you're a man who manages a team that has women in it, it's really important, and we all have a responsibility to be changing that narrative proactively and intentionally for women coming through. Because right now, women still feel uncomfortable putting themselves out there, talking about their achievements, talking about their wins, and we need to be flipping that on its head and making that a more positive thing to be doing. And we all have a responsibility there.
Yeah, I think it's the allies piece again,
Exactly.
isn't it? It's allies, whether it's male, female, regardless of background. it's surrounding yourself with like-minded people in that community, and that might be in the business you're in, it might be in the community online, it might be the community something like here. So I think finding your tribe, if you like, is really important, but also make that tribe welcoming to others. It's not a clique, it's not a group, you know, it's an open. In the past it's been very cliquey, and you know,
I'm just picturing my TED talk.
yeah.
That's what my talk is about.
Is it? I
You
haven't
didn't
even
watch it, did you?
no.
I am disliking it.
I've watched it, Bharti.
I'm listening, Bharti.
Can you two stop it? It's making it worse.
I was about to make
Yeah,
a
actually,
mistake. You don't need to like it.
Oh yeah,
You
absolutely.
do not need to. Only 1,800 people did. But I would say on the flip side of the jealousy, and obviously what you've said is perfect. I think everybody should go to counselling as an adult at some point in their lives. I think my counsellor kind of said to me, if other people are jealous of you, she made me switch the narrative on myself to say it's okay for them to be jealous of me, and that's fine. As long as I'm not then reacting to the jealousy that's coming towards me. And so she said, whatever you tell yourself, it's okay, as long as you just tell yourself that. So it's like, okay, they're jealous of me because I'm doing all these amazing things. That's okay. That's not my problem. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. They have to solve their issue because I can't control that. All I can control is my behaviour. So as long as I don't react to their jealousy, and I think that's where, like, when somebody's criticised you, it's going, actually, I'm not going to scroll through LinkedIn and say, what did I do wrong? But you're saying something's obviously bothering them, but that's their problem. I can't change what I've been doing because whatever you put on there is genuinely you, and you didn't do it to make other people happy. And you also didn't do anything that isn't you. You are authentically you on there, and you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And I think that's the important thing to remember, is that jealousy will come your way, and how you take that on is what you can control.
Yeah.
You can't control anybody else.
I think that's good advice. I think really good advice. And time for one more question. Anybody want it? Yes.
First of all, great panel, guys. Authenticity is something that I live by, like, for most of my life. But over the past year, first role I've had operating globally, how does that authenticity translate to other regions, other cultures? Because I'm super sarcastic, super stuff like that. With the UK partners, game on. But like, how does that kind of translate to other cultures, other regions? Like, how does that work?
Good question.
So maybe I can just start. I would say it doesn't always translate well, and I think you need to recognise that you are English, British, whatever you might be, whatever your background is, that is how you've been brought up, and you need to appreciate that different cultures have different beliefs of what they see as acceptable or unacceptable behaviour. And all I would say is it doesn't mean that you have to change who you are inside, but you should have a level of respect for their culture, to adapt, to make sure that you are seen, to fit, to make sure that you're not offending them, or you're not. So I used to have to travel loads, and I remember going over to, I think it was Saudi, and I walked into a room, and the men refused to acknowledge my existence.
Well, that's like my normal job.
Don't quite that.
I have been asked if I was here to make notes. It's my meeting.
No, but genuinely, I would just say, just be aware of that. And every culture, every country has their own nuances, their own little idiosyncrasies, maybe whatever it might be. You probably just need to be aware of that and just slightly tone down that sarcasm in certain situations, maybe, or just slightly adapt how you are, but don't let that change you as a person.
Yeah, I say the same thing. I think because I work in a global role, and it is different with different people, so I just have to kind of learn how they will take me, because I can come across as like very, very jokey, very sarcastic, but equally like very strong. But in some situations I'm not at all. I will just listen to what they're saying, and so I just have to learn to adapt to those situations, because all of those things are me, just in different places with different people. But I think just taking into account that different cultures have different ways of doing things. I obviously, because I am an Indian person, I have that even just here, just generally, like talking to my family. I think nobody knows what I do for a living. I parents have no idea, and that's okay, you know, because it just doesn't make any sense to them. And even though they were, you know, my dad was brought up here, it's just something that it is, and you know, everyone thinks that my husband is the breadwinner of my house, and I just let them do that. It's okay, and you don't have to always be the same person to everybody.
Yeah.
You just have to be an important person for the role that you're doing, and that's it. You know, as long as they will take you and listen to what you're saying and take that on board, then you've achieved what you needed.
Elisha, anything?
I'm not going to add for the sake of adding, Elliot. Everything these two
Yeah,
said.
smashed it.
Smashed it. Authenticity but adaptable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think one thing to say is Yvonne's told me that the next event is 2nd of July.
That's it.
Yes.
You got it.
This year.
This
This
year.
year, yeah, this year, right.
In London.
In
Yeah,
London.
and it's in London. Thanks, Marty. You seem like a great team. But yeah, is that okay with you, Lindsay? 2nd of July,
Yeah, that's
cool.
a free party. Everything's up.
No, honestly, thank you, ladies. It's been really insightful. I think we seem to say this, but it just seems to be getting better and better, these events, and you guys contribute to that for turning up. Obviously, it's your own time you're in now, and I appreciate that. So, another round of applause for the ladies, I think.